Okay, well, this is this is an overview of the book that I'm holding. As you can see, it's this one. It's called The Psychology of Quality of Life, and my name is Joseph Sergi, and um, I'll be going over some of the chapters, or just to give you an overview of what the book is. Um, this is essentially the cover page of the book. It is published by Springer. It was published in 2012, and I'm a professor at Virginia Tech. Let's see, yes. And what we're going to be talking about, um, at least in terms of the overview, would be philosophical foundations, definitions, and measures of the concept of happiness, um, the consequences of happiness, objective reality and its effects on happiness, subjective reality and its effects on happiness, life domains and their effects on happiness, and population segments and happiness. So, in other words, the book is divided in terms of those parts. And much of the literature is reviewed and captured in the book. So, what we'll do is we'll uh, take you through those different parts of the book and give you sort of an overview of those different chapters. Uh, what we want to do is we want to start out from the very beginning, and the very beginning is the philosophical foundations, definitions, and measures. And we have to realize that the literature on happiness is very much divided in terms of three categories or through three different groups of studies that focus on three different types of constructs. From a philosophical point of view, philosophers have sort of defined or made a distinction between um, psychological happiness, prudential happiness, and perfectionist happiness. From a behavioral science point of view, these have sort of corresponding constructs. So, psychological happiness from a philosophical point of view is translated in behavioral terms as hedonic well being. Hedonic well being focuses very much on the temporary, situational type of feelings that people have, whether they're positive or negative. And it could be, a very specific situation that would last a few seconds or a few minutes, all the way up to a few weeks. Uh, so we usually talk about hedonic well-being as a micro level type of a happiness construct, which is very different from something like eudaimonia, which is the behavioral translation of what philosophers talk about in terms of perfectionist happiness. And this is essentially the most macro concept, macro level. In this sense, it focuses on personality development. So we're talking about things like moral development, cognitive development, social development, emotional development. And it is, of course, the time frame, the lifespan of this construct is it's a lifespan. In essence, you can, yeah, the time element is over an extended period of time. The one in the middle, which is called prudential happiness, is life satisfaction. This is sort of again, a mid-level type of a construct from a behavioral science perspective. Um, and a good way to actually describe those constructs from a philosophical as well as a behavioral science perspective is to um, talk about them in terms of their psychometric elements. So let's start out with hedonic well-being. Again, hedonic well-being from a behavioral science perspective, and again, the philosophical uh, correspondent to this behavioral science construct is psychological happiness. So again, we're focusing on the most micro level construct, and that is positive and negative feelings, how people experience positive or negative feelings in particular situations within particular time frame as in again in minutes in hours or in days and possibly weeks. Um, Again, a good way to describe this construct of hedonic well-being is to focus on particular measures. And this is a measure that has now gained quite a bit of popularity over the recent years. This one is by Diener, Wirtz, Tov, and Kim Prado, Chow, and Oishi, and Biswas Diener. Um, and it was published in Social Indicators Research, which is again uh, one of the academic journals that traditionally publish this kind of research. Um, and the scale is again positive and negative experience, and the cue that is presented up front to the person that is completing this type of measure. Again, um, the a respondent is given that kind of measure, and at an individual level, they uh, uh, they respond to specific items. And the cue to those items, it starts out with, please think about what you've been doing and experiencing during the last 4 weeks. Again, the time element is 4 weeks here. Report how much you experience each of the following feelings using the scale below. For each item, select a number of from 1 to 5 and indicate that number on your response sheet. Again, the scale is a sort of like a frequency type scale varying from very often or always, which is a 5, often, 4, sometimes, 3, rarely, 2, very rarely, or never, which is a 1. That's the scoring system in relation to each item. So, what are the items? The items, again, are a whole bunch of adjectives, positive, negative. We're talking about feelings or experiences, positive, negative, good, bad, pleasant, unpleasant, happy, sad, afraid, joyful, angry, and contented. So, the respondent um, it, it describes his feelings over the last 4 weeks in terms of those adjectives, those feelings types of adjectives. And the scoring system um, is uh, it, it it is divided in terms of 4 categories, what we call positive feelings, negative feelings, or affect balance. So positive feelings, what you do is you add the scores varying from 1 to 5 for the 6 items, the 6 adjectives that captures positive experience, which would be positive, good, pleasant, happy, joyful, and contented. So you take the responses related to those 6 items and you sum them up. So you end up with a score from 6 lowest possible to a 30 highest possible. The same thing can be done in relation to the negative feelings. So you add up the scores varying from 1 to 5 for the 6 items. What are the 6 items? It's negative experience, bad experience, unpleasant experience, so forth. Sad, afraid, and angry. And the score would vary again from 6, lowest possible, to 30, highest possible. Now, the third category in which one can compute would be affect balance, and that is the difference between positive and negative. So the negative feeling score is subtracted from the positive feeling score, and the resultant difference score can vary from negative 24, which is unhappiness, to 24 happiest. This is another example of a hedonic well-being metric, which is published by, which is developed by Dockeray, Rand, Stone, and Kahneman, Wardle, and Steptoe. And again, it's published in one of the, highly established, most recognized academic journal that focus on these kinds of issues, quality of life issues. Um, so, so that particular measure is called ecological momentary assessment. Participants are given a sampling diary and are instructed to rate their current feelings on a series of affect adjectives like happy, tired, stressed, frustrated, and angry on a 5-point scale, not at all the way to very much. At 6 time points, at the office, at bedtime, 30 minutes after walking the next morning, noon, and 3 p.m. So that's another one. Still, another one is measuring hedonic sensations of momentary pleasure. And again, this is probably the most micro level construct that again focuses on hedonic well-being, but it is indeed very, very micro in the sense that it captures those momentary pleasures. It's called the day reconstruction method. A diary is completed online at the end of each 24 hours period. Participants are asked to recall the monitoring period as a continuous series of episodes, similar to episodes of a television show. Each episode is defined in terms of um, onset and duration, location, social situation, and activity. After After the complete 24 hours are reconstructed, participants rate their feelings related to each episode on a series of affective states: happy, tired, worry, feeling hassled, angry, and frustrated on a 7-point scale. Again, that would be varying from 0, not at all, and 6, which is the highest point. That is very much. Okay, so that sort of gives you an idea of what hedonic well-being is as a construct, as a behavioral science construct that is, again, translated from what philosophers talk about in terms of psychological happiness. The next one, which is a little bit mid-level construct, again, philosophers talk about it as prudential happiness, and behavioral scientists talk about it in terms of life satisfaction. Now, what is that? Life satisfaction is sort of a cognitive level construct. And in order to really give you an understanding of what it is, we actually look at the measures and how it is captured from a psychometrics perspective. The one that has gained quite a bit of popularity in the quality of life well-being literature is the Diener et al. Diener, Emmons, Larson, and Griffin. And that particular measure has been developed by, again, Diener and his colleague, um, and it's called the Satisfaction with Life Scale, which is published in the Journal of Personality Assessment, again back in 1985, and it has quite a bit of reliability and validity associated with that. So again, the measure is cognitive in the sense that it asked people to how they feel about their lives in general. And there are 5 items in that measure. And let me read those to you. In most ways, my life is close to the ideal. And the response scale is essentially 7-point, a Likert type scale, which is, it varies from 1, strongly disagree, all the way up to 7, strongly agree. So again, a person who is essentially endorsing a statement like that would score highly on happiness. And again, in this context, it would be life satisfaction with life. The second item is the conditions of my life are excellent. The third item would be I am satisfied with my life. Fourth item, so far I've gotten the important things I want in life. The fifth item, and the last one, if I could live my life over, I would change almost nothing. Another measure of life satisfaction um, is the Personal Well-Being Index. This is a recent publication, well, somewhat recent, that is use this particular metric of life satisfaction, which is called Personal Well-Being Index, in Thailand, and again published in Social Indicators Research back in 2010. The the measure has been developed by Robert Cummings from Deakin University, and he has sort of established the following using this personal well-being index. All kinds of data has been collected that using the personal well-being index all over the world. And again, it gained quite a bit of popularity. So it's divided in two. The first one focuses on life satisfaction overall. And again, it asks people, well, thinking about your life, your own life and personal circumstances, how satisfied are you with your life as a whole? And people, what they do is they uh, they express, they answer this question using a rating scale, an 11-point rating scale varying from extremely dissatisfied to 10 extremely satisfied. Then the second part focuses on how people feel about specific life domains, so what we call a domain life satisfaction. And there are 8 different domains that um, Robert Cummings and his colleagues have specified based on quite a bit of research, and that is standard of living, health, achieving in life, relationships, safety, community, future security, religion, or spirituality. So a typical item would be how satisfied are you with your standard of living? And again, same kind of a rating scale varying from extremely dissatisfied, which is 0, all the way to 10. So again, this is a measure which is now very uh, achieved quite a bit of popularity in the quality of life well-being literature, and it's supposed to capture what we call life satisfaction, which is sort of a mid-level construct of happiness. Moving on, which would be the most macro level construct of happiness. Again, philosophers talk about it in terms of perfectionist happiness. Sometimes we talk about it in terms of eudaimonia, or psychological well-being in behavioral terms, behavioral science terms, and essential psychologists talk about it. But again, psychologists adopted the term eudaimonia, which philosophers, it dates back all the way from the writing of Aristotle. Um, and eudaimonia is a construct now that psychologists have been using um, quite a bit recently, and now there's quite a following. There's quite a very large program of research dealing with eudaimonia. So to give you an example of what eudaimonia is, well, eudaimonia again focuses on the most macro level concept of happiness. It focuses on personality development. Talk about things like self-actualization. So we're talking about trying to capture um, the the uh, uh, the extent to which a person is fully developed, cognitively speaking, morally speaking, emotionally, socially, physically, well, physically to a lesser extent. But yeah, there is physical, what you call physical ramifications to this. The measure of eudaimonia that gained quite a bit of popularity in the quality of life well-being literature is Carol Reif's measure uh, of psychological well-being. She calls it psychological well-being. Um, and again, this was published back in 1990, 89 in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, which is, again, one of the most highly regarded uh, academic journals um, in social personality psychology. So, so when we're talking about capturing the sort of the full spectrum of human development, according to Carol Reif, those dimensions would be five: autonomy, positive relations with others, environmental mastery, personal growth, and purpose in life. So, again, a person who is fully developed psychologically speaking is autonomous, um, uh, is a person who has positive relations with others, has a good sense that he or she controls um, their own environment, that feels that they've achieved a certain level of personal growth and feel that they have a purpose in life. So let me give you sort of a, a more pointed aspect, a pointed understanding of those dimensions. Start out with autonomy. And these, as you see from that slide, these are the items that are used to capture autonomy in terms of psychological well-being. I'm not afraid to voice my opinion, even when they are in opposition to the opinions of most people. Again, a person endorsing a statement like that should be considered to be autonomous. My decisions are not usually influenced by what everyone else is doing. I have confidence in my opinions, even if they are contrary to the general consensus. Being happy with myself is more important than having others approve of me. I tend to worry what other people think of me. Well, that one is, of course, reverse coded. That means the opposite. I often change my mind about decisions if my friends and family disagree. And again, that's reverse coded. It is difficult for me to voice my opinions on controversial matters. Again, reverse coded. So that gives you an idea of how autonomy is captured in the context of overall psychological well being. The next one is positive relations with others. And as you can see from the slides, we've got a few items there. And again, uh, the respondents, you know, express their feelings about those items through a Likert type scale, varying from strongly disagree all the way to strongly agree. Um, Most people see me as loving and affectionate. Again, positive relations with others. I enjoy personal and mutual conversations with family members and friends. People would describe me as a giving person, willing to share my time with others. Um, I know that I can trust my friends and know that they can trust me. And then you've got a bunch of other, which might call reverse coded items. So that hopefully that would give you an idea of how positive relations with others as one of the dimensions of psychological well-being is captured, psychometrically speaking. The third dimension is environmental mastery. And again, examples of items would be I'm quite good at managing the many responsibilities of my daily life. I generally do a good job taking care of my personal finances and affairs. I'm good at juggling my time so that I can fit everything and that needs to be done. I've been able to build a home and a lifestyle for myself that is to my liking. And again, you've got also several reverse coded items. Hopefully, that will give you a, a good feel for how environmental mastery is captured. Another dimension is personal growth. And again, example of items of personal growth would be, I think it is important to have new experiences that challenge how you think about the world. I have the sense that I have developed a lot as a person over time. Um, let's skip, yeah, and the rest of them are essentially reverse coded in the sense that if they endorse that, that's exactly the opposite. I'm not interested in activities that expand my horizons. Now, again, that would be an example of a reverse coded item. The last dimension is purpose in life. Um, and examples of items that would capture this dimension would be, I am an active person in carrying out the plans I set for myself. I enjoy making plans for the future and working to make them a reality. And the rest of them are essentially reverse coded. So this would give you an idea of psychological well-being as a behavioral science construct and how it is captured by um, that measure that we talked about that has been developed by Carol Reif. Another popular measure has been developed by Ed Diener and his colleagues, and again published in Social Indicators Research. Um, and it deals with flourishing. Flourishing. So again, this is the flourishing scale, and responses to those items are captured in terms of a Likert type scale, varying from strongly disagree to strongly agree. Again, 1 to 7. And a person who endorses those items, again, is considered to be flourishing. Flourishing in the sense that their personality is fully developed, and they get as much out of life as possible. Um, I lead a purposeful and meaningful life. My social relationships are supportive and rewarding. I am engaged and interested in my daily activities. I actively contribute to the happiness of and well-being of others. I am competent and capable in the activities that are important to me. I'm a good person and live a good life. I'm optimistic about my future. People treat me with respect. Again, that gives you a good feel for what we call flourishing, which is, again, one of those constructs, and ultimately it's the construct that falls under the big umbrella of eudaimonia. And that gives you sort of an overview of those three different types of constructs of happiness, again, from a philosophical point of view, as well as a behavioral science point of view. Again, those three can focus, can be construed in terms of a level of abstraction from the very micro to the very macro, and the very micro is hedonic well-being. Life satisfaction is a mid-level construct, and eudaimonia is the most abstract and the most macro level. It really captures personality development in its fullest. And this overview again should be enough to capture at least the first few chapters of the book. So we'll stop here.